Welcome to the Diamond Baron podcast. My aim is to explore the people and families behind the diamond and jewelry industry, and to look to understand what happened at that critical moment in their careers that gave them the edge. We explore how they solved the seemingly insurmountable problems they faced. Hi, everyone. I have the pleasure of interviewing not only a colleague, but a friend, John Calleija. John is without doubt, in my opinion, one of the greatest jewelers in Australia, and I would rate him some of the top jewelers in the world. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of them and see their work, and I put John on that standard. But what really appeals to me the most about having the opportunity to interview John is the person he is. And we have the opportunity here to dig a bit and ask some interesting questions and see where all that goes. So welcome, John, and thanks for participating.
It's a pleasure. I've never done this before. So thanks a lot, Rami. I'm honored. I'm very happy to be here.
Pleasure. So, John Calleija, born in Sydney.
No,
Yes?
Canberra. Born in Canberra, one of 5 children. And a question I often get is, did jewelry run in the family? Not at all. I'm from a trucking family, and my dad says he built Lake Burley Griffin, big lake in Canberra, and we got a contract to cart a lot of soil and dirt out of that area. And I grew up around diesels and trucks and heavy machinery. Jewelry was not on the radar in our family, in our history at all.
So begs the question, how did you become a jeweler? Why?
It was funny. I mean, I went all through school in Sydney, moved from Canberra to Sydney. As you go through school, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. One of 5 children, our parents let us do whatever we wanted. If you have, they didn't want us to get into that family business, you do whatever you want. My sister's a nurse. My brothers got into waste disposal, still trucks and boats as well. And for some reason, one day I was lying on the lounge at the end of year 12, and I had no plans for the future, university, anything. Teachers at school said, don't follow anything in the arts. They said, because you'll never work. Yet every day I draw and every day I design by hand. And so they sort of steered me off that. And then one day I was seriously lying on the lounge watching television. And my mother said, Johnny, what are you going to do with your life? All your friends have got jobs in university and you're doing nothing. And I said, there was an ad on TV for, I think it was Angus & Coote. And I said, that looks good. Diamonds, jewelry, I think I'll do that. And then I just took off for the afternoon and came back a few hours. And my mother says, well, Johnny, I've got you an interview tomorrow morning with a Maltese jeweler, and we're Maltese, an Italian. And that's how it happened. No family history, nothing. I just started as an apprentice in Sydney and built it up from there.
Amazing. So who inspired you?
Well, it has to be the person that gave me my job, Mr. Bill Pace. I'm eternally grateful for the fact that as a young 18-year-old who, I'm sure there would have been lots of other kids who have always wanted to be jewelers and had done lots of work beforehand. I had done nothing. And yet he saw in me that I would be a good apprentice to him. I was so grateful that he gave me that break when I was 18 years old, which is next year, that will be 40 years ago. And the fact that he took on this kid who didn't really know anything, but I just watched him making jewelry in front of me. And I said, you know what? I've actually been training for that all my life without knowing it. Because I used to make tiny little models with my hands, tiny, really fine little things. And I used to draw a lot. Even when I was a kid, when I was 5 years old, I used to draw on my bed sheets, and my mother hated it with ink pen. she nearly killed me. And so I was doing these, funny things all my life, and I was always preparing for this day. But it was just fate. It was just like, I'm watching TV. There's an ad for jewelry. My mum phoned Sydney Tech College. They said there's a jeweler in the city. It was then Proud's. Proud's had the big store where Tiffany's is now on the corner of King and Pitt. And right down in the bellows of Proud's, there was this tiny little workshop that I went in the next day. I had no idea where I was going. And he was so lovely to me. He trained me and he taught me the old school way of hand making. And it still runs true today. It's how we run our workshop now with 10 jewelers in there. It's very similar. So I'm very grateful for him.
I remember a story you told me that you used to sell wedding bands.
You cannot do better than a JC Wedder.
What year was that?
Well, my boss Bill started that business, and what it was gold-plated wedding rings that we paid for and placed in all the stores. So we had like 130 stores around the country with this range of wedding rings in it. And so when I took over from him at the third year of my apprenticeship, he didn't want to make jewelry anymore, and he said, I want to hand the business over to you. I had to, pay him, of course. Nothing comes for free. And I took over actually the last year of my apprenticeship. I was really working on my own and teaching myself virtually. And then I expanded the designs. And so that was actually my first sort of foray into designing, and the designing skills. I never, went to design school or anything like that. It was all just self-taught. And then I just kept designing these wedding rings and getting them, better and better, and the people liked them. And we had all these gold-plated ranges out there at all these stores. And I remember once one of the stores phoned up and said, "Oh, we've got terrible news." I said, "What?" And they said, "Oh, some thief has just come in and stolen your wedding rings. Your beautiful Calleija wedding rings are all gone." I said, "Oh, no." I'm thinking, well, you have to pay for it. And so anyway, I thought, oh, I better make them a new range. 20 minutes later, she phoned back and said, "Don't worry. The thief came back and threw them back and said they're rubbish. They're all gold-plated." So anyway.
That's funny. Classic story of our past. I mean, I know you've had many defining moments, and we'll get to those, but I always like to ask someone the sort of question that, there's obviously been points in our careers where we're faced with something incredibly difficult.
Mm.
And I'd really like if you could share maybe a small story of, what did you do what was a situation like that? And what did you do to move past it?
Well, I think I might just quickly talk about how I started in retail, and that was just really challenging. This happened that I was in manufacturing. I was sitting at the bench for about 10 years or so in Sydney. And then one day, I just had it with the Sydney traffic and the smog. I was a bad asthmatic, and so I needed to move north. I just knew every time I came up to Queensland, which is 1,000 kilometres north of Sydney, I had this feeling that I felt really healthy and good. I was near the sea and always felt good. So I'd moved up here with nothing. I actually put everything I had in an old car, an old 86 model Jaguar, and hit the Pacific Highway and drove. I had all my tools, I had all my equipment, everything. It's all I had. And then one day I just said, you know what? I need to express my creativity, my designs, and I need to get them to a bigger market. The wedding rings were wonderful, and they were a beautiful stepping stone. And I'm grateful for every stage of my career that's gotten me along. And so those wedding rings were, well, I was going to say gold, but gold plated. But they were instrumental in getting me to that next stage. And so when I came up to Queensland, I was actually going to expand that wedding ring business because it was a known. I knew if I put, X amount of money into that, I will get this amount of return generally, right? But I said, you know what? It's great and it's lovely, but there's one thing that's missing: the eyes. When you make a piece of jewellery from scratch with your own hands and you deliver it to the client comes to pick it up and you've created for them, it's the look in their eyes that is just so rewarding from the creator's point of view. So when I make something and I deliver it and the person opens the box, and we have this little sort of ceremony every time we open a ring box, All our new staff are trained in that. When I open that ring and it glistens and sparkle, and I look at that client's eyes, and sometimes you get the blank look, and sometimes you get the wish it was more. But the majority of the times you get, I love it. And when you get tears of joy, not the tears of the price tag, you just get that reward, and that's what I was lacking in doing the wedding rings. I had to have that connection to the client and the end user, so I decided it's time to open a store. So I opened this little store in Sanctuary Cove. There was hardly anyone that went there, but yet there were nice cars everywhere, and I thought this would be a great place to do it. And no competition. There was no one around. And these were the days before the internet, where we could all make money, and people, could just see the product, and they loved it and knew the price, and that was it, sort of thing. The simple days. And so, but in doing that, there were many challenges. We just opened, and we had some beautiful diamonds in the window that I'd either had got on approval from fabulous diamond suppliers, or had made up pieces with other people's gems. And we had three really magnificent, we had a whole window full of magnificent pieces. And it was on a Sunday, and all of us, we're open 7 days a week, used to work every day, turned around, and the three prize jewels in the window were gone. And
oh my God.
Yeah, I was with a staff member and just said, "What has happened?" And we don't know how it happened, but someone slipped their hand in and stole three pieces that we had on our product. We'd only just opened, and this was just devastating. It was like, oh my God. Only the week prior, we were getting quotes to get CCTV in, right? And then we were thinking, how does that happen? And then we're ruined. We won't be able to survive. I mean, I don't know whether insurance pays that when there was no CCTV. We didn't see anyone do it, but somehow we got busy and distracted, and someone slipped their hand in behind the window. Luckily, thank God for insurance, that we got paid straight away, and we were able to continue. But it nearly killed us. We felt terrible afterwards. But I always say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if it didn't bring me down, it just makes you think, right, well, we've got to fix that. Obviously, we left a cabinet open or something, or they got in, we don't know. We didn't have good enough locks, and we didn't have CCTV, but thank God for insurance. We had proper insurance. That's one of the things that I remember years ago, a very wise old Jewish diamond merchant in Antwerp said, "John, never ever skimp on insurance. Make sure you've got all your stock properly insured." And I can't tell you, there's been 3 incidents over the years that I've made sure that we have stock fully insured. And if there's robberies, God forbid, you've got to treat it like your biggest sale, basically. And you've got to, not let it demotivate yourself or your staff, because things like that can certainly bring you down. And just even things like what we're going through at the moment with COVID, can bring us all down. But I've had lots of challenges over the years, and the one thing that brings me back, first of all, you just can't let your mind go down the wrong track. You just can't, get really stressed over things, because it's stopping your creativity. And our creativity is what makes our businesses. When we make and design beautiful pieces, no matter how elaborate or how simple they are, that's what people are buying off us. They're falling in love with our creativity. It's our art. And if we stop doing it, we get stressed by those things that I've mentioned. It affects our creativity, and it even affects the way that we talk to people and the way that we greet a person when they come into our establishment. You've got to take people from out on the street into your store in a warm, beautiful, happy environment. And that's what we've done. And I've trained my team over the years to make sure you look after every single person that visits our store. It doesn't matter whether it's a 10-year-old kid, an 8-year-old kid, or an 80-year-old grandmother. You look after them, whether you think they can afford it or not. You look after them to the nth degree. And we've done that all the years, and it's been our best, advertising, our best way to do business. And it never changes. And yet, 40 years on, you have to go back to these core things that makes the business. Design, design, design.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and you use the example of the insurance, the impact that it had on you. Can I be a little bit more because you had a backstop position there.
Yeah.
You had the insurance policy. Can I ask something that, you were hit with something that really, God, I don't have insurance. Like, there is no one in the family who's going to necessarily bail me out here. Can you give me a scenario like that?
Yeah, I can give you a great one. I mean, look, some people know this, some people don't. I don't mind talking about it. We had a major fraud in London. So we opened our London store 12 years ago, and it was the same reason why I opened all those years ago at Sanctuary Cove, to bring my art and my creativity to the world. And I opened in London because I wanted a world stage. I considered London the capital of the world, and I wanted to take my pieces to that big city and big marketplace, big environment. I wanted people to know what I could do, but I also knew that it would expand my horizons and expand my challenge me more to be more creative. And then we had there's just so many things you have to watch when you've got a store 10,000 miles away, and just not the people that you're familiar with. Not staff. I'm talking people that come by your store, and every jeweler in London is a target at some stage for thieves. And we had a massive fraud over there, massive robbery. It was $11 million, and we lost the whole lot. And we didn't have insurance. We had insurance, but they got out on a loophole. It wasn't through your army, don't worry. And basically, it went to court, and I had to pay. I had all those stones on the majority of them on tick on APRO, and they got stolen, and I had to pay for them all. It nearly gutted me. I'm serious.
And it's the sort of thing that I mean, $10, $11 million. I mean, 11 million. I mean, this is a knockout blow for
I
most
thought we were
businesses.
gone. That's the stage where I thought we have to close up. There's no way I can pay that back to all the suppliers. And I had help from friends in the trade who helped me negotiate out of it. And I paid everyone back. Everyone got their money in full. And it took a while. It took 2 years to do it. But they got it. There's no way I was letting my reputation go down with what happened. I beat myself up about how it happened and how I could have prevented it from happening. But it's like that one that happened when I first opened, that you just learn from your mistakes and you move on. And hey, it somehow happens to us all the time that the universe seems to provide. Straight after the robbery, we had a fantastic sale. Like we had I think it was a $1.5 million sale in the London store straight after that, and it gave us like, oh, thank God, someone's looking after us, and all the way through negotiating with the courts and lawyers and everything to get our way out of it. Everything just happened at the right time. And it was like we're meant not to go just yet. We're meant to really hang in there. It was devastating. It was devastating for all our staff. It was a big deal.
It's an incredible story, because I'm sure that the majority of people would have walked away, would have just called it a day, would have called it quits. To know that you had the moral fortitude to repay that money, and with your suppliers, would put you in an even more elite status than anyone.
Well, if I hadn't looked after them all the years, I had to call on some favors. All the years, everyone knows that if you sell me a diamond or whatever it is, hey, sometimes we might be late paying, but you always get paid. You'll always get paid. And now integrity and the way we look after our customers and the way I train my staff to look after everybody. You look after everybody, from that 8-year-old kid to the billionaire that comes in. You look after everybody. And so that integrity put me in good stead with my suppliers, and we were able to get out of it. But my name is everything. If I let that bring me down, or closed up shop, and even closed London at that stage, I wouldn't have wanted to. It just wouldn't have looked good, and I just couldn't do it. I love this industry. I'm so grateful for everything that it's given me, and I wouldn't have had it any other way.
So from the depths of
Yeah,
depression,
and it was
which
very
that would
depressing.
have been.
I'm not a person that gets
So,
depressed easily, but let me tell you, when that
yeah,
happened, man, it was
for sure.
terrible. These were a criminal gang.
So let's go to the pinnacles of
Sure. Yeah.
success in your career, which, from my knowledge of your history, which I've watched over the years, you
It
created the mask.
was a big turning point.
Some of our listeners won't know what the mask is, so if you can give a bit of background to what the mask is and where it went.
So the mask is known as titled Virtual Eros. And it was a piece that I was so lucky, and it was just so beautiful how it all happened. First of all, like many designers and jewelers, I'd been entering awards for years, the Australian Jewelry Design Awards, the international awards, everything. And I'd entered the De Beers Diamonds International Awards before, and to no success. So I decided to put this design in of this mask. Now, it wasn't all me, because I'd visited a clairvoyant a few months prior, and she saw it and she says, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "What?" She says, "You're wow." She said, "You're going to design something that is going to be absolute world beater, and I see you going to Paris to collect this award." And I said, "Well, I'm actually entering some jewelry awards soon." And I said, "All right, if you can see the future, can you tell me what it looks like?" And she actually said, "It's a bird in a cage." And right behind me is this beautiful Virtual Eros, the photo of it. And hey, it is a bird in a cage. And I went away and just started drawing for weeks and weeks. Couldn't get anything right. I was literally designing a bird in a cage, and it was horrible. And I think there's no way that's going to win an award. And I thought, hang on a minute. I woke up early one morning, and I said, what if it was like a full mask that went around the face, all set with diamonds? And I just drew it, and I drew it in like 5 minutes, a quick mud sketch. And that was it. And then I just kept perfecting it from there. So it then went on to, I designed it for the De Beers Diamonds International Awards, year 2000. They'd been going since 1953. And there'd already been some great winners in Australia who had claimed title for that award, and I hadn't. And I really wanted to get it. And it turns out that the year 2000 was the last year. So I can always say we're the current winners, which is great. And so the beauty of it all was, I've got to tell you this, that we entered the awards, and the Australian office of De Beers at the time, they didn't think much of it. They thought, look, I don't think it's got a chance. Okay, I said, that's fine, just put it in. So it went in, and that same person, on the eve of our wedding, when Noni and I, my wife and I, were getting married at the Ritz-Carlton in Sydney, in the 19th of March.
Which, by the way, is an excellent day. It's the day of my birthday. Just so you
Are
should
you
know.
kidding? No way. I didn't know that. Wow. So we just checked into the Ritz-Carlton. I'm at the counter. Actually, no, it's got in our room, and the number came up, and I could see it was De Beers. I said, "Oh, geez." And she said, "You sitting down?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "What?" She says, "You've won the De Beers International with your design. They accepted it. They loved it." I said, "Oh my God," the night before our wedding. I couldn't believe it. In those days, that news was embargoed. You then had to go and make the piece, because it was only a drawing. You had to make it, and then you flew to Paris. So as far as all the media goes, you haven't won. You have to fly to Paris, and then you have the big ceremony, which is exactly what happened, exactly what the clairvoyant predicted. And then we went to Paris, and it was all over the news. We got $2 million worth of free publicity. All my clients everywhere around the world had seen it. And then we got all these new clients who, before the awards, when they would want me to design something, they would say, it's got to be like this, and it's got to be 2 millimeters high, and you've got to bring the yellow gold up to the white gold. After the award, you do it. You're the designer. You're supposed to be the award winner. So you had more autonomy, more trust. And the selling jewelry is all about trust. It doesn't have to be awards. It simply just has to be who you are, the look of your business, how you purvey yourself, how people see your business. We're in really highly competitive times and gets competitive more and more all the time. But these are the things that I've learned over all these years. That trust is key. And thank God that we did win that award, and it gave us a lot of good credence.
Did it catapult you?
It did. We went from a little jeweler in a tin shed one day to the next day, and well, meaning we went to Paris. We accepted the biggest. We were with David Bowie, right? We're with Yves Saint Laurent. We're with some of the most famous people in the world. There's just a few of them that came along. De Beers transformed the foyer of the got the name of the famous museum in Paris with the pyramid, the Louvre. Yeah, turned the Louvre into De Beers transformed the Louvre Museum into one great big catwalk and party. And this is where David Bowie was, and you say, Laurent, it was just amazing, right? So you're on cloud nine, and you've won the biggest award in the world in your industry, which is just great. And I remember I opened the doors to the store back in the little tin shed that it was at Sanctuary Cove. The first customer that walks in, do you change watch batteries? So, it's good. It keeps you grounded.
Brings you back to reality.
Yeah, keeps you grounded. But yes, it did. People straight away. I had people flying from Melbourne and Sydney, and they'd read all about it and saw it on the TV, wanted to see the mask, and they wanted to meet us. And once they met us, got them into the store. Hardest thing in retail is, no matter where your store is getting them into the store. I worked out the other day that it cost us $1,800 per customer to get them into the store, meaning that's how much we spend on marketing, and that's how many people come into our store, and that's how much it costs. $1,800 a person, a lot.
It's amazing how paths intercross or intercede. I saw the mask,
Oh, right.
and I saw the mask because you sent it to Sydney to be polished and plated, and
yeah, that's
I
right.
happened, and because there's a guy who's a maestro polisher. He's like the guru, and I had, for some reason, he worked at late night. I had walked in, and he was by himself, and he was just,
Wow.
and I remember seeing this thing and just looking at it and thinking, oh my God, what a piece.
Well, that's before it went to Paris. We couldn't do it. We didn't have a rhodium bath big enough. It's 18 karat white gold, and it's the size of a hat. And no one had a bath big enough. And this guy even built the bath for us and polished it. And there were a lot of people involved in that mask that helped me. People like that, and the diamond suppliers, everybody. It was just amazing.
Amazing. So, okay, let's jump forward a little bit. You opened
Mm.
up additional stores.
Mm.
That's a big jump for any jeweler, especially someone who's a designer. You were so involved with people on a one-to-one basis, and now you've made the jump to set up a store. You've got stores in Sydney, correct?
Yep.
And in London.
The London one, well, it was Sanctuary Cove first.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to Marina Mirage, which is connected to the Sheraton. So we're on the Gold Coast here, and this is connected to the Sheraton Mirage. It was a shopping centre called Marina Mirage. We had two stores right near each other. Closed Sanctuary Cove. I just had my baby girl. It was 15 years ago. And, I had her a bit later in life. I was, 40 something. And then I said, no, I want to spend more time with her. I don't want to have these two stores. I'll probably close one of them, and I'll probably halve our turnover, but it doesn't matter. I want to spend more time with her. The opposite happened. Close one store, put everything into one store. Our turnover doubled because we had everything under one roof. And so you would think I would learn from that you would go concentrate better on having one store. You can manage things better. But I'm always ambitious, and I'm always thinking of new things. And what happened was I had an Aston Martin at the time, and I sent my brochure over to Aston Martin in England with someone I met who worked there. And I said, give this to your boss and say, does he want the jewelry? And then he came back, and within 5 days, I got an email a green email written in green writing. I'll never forget it, know why. And he's the boss of Aston Martin UK worldwide. And it said, I love your designs. I love your brochure. I love your brand. Is there any way you could come over and we could talk about doing a brand partnership? I thought, oh my God, fantastic. I was on a plane the next day and flew over to London. I met with Dr. Betts in his office in Gaydon, Warwickshire. And he said the same thing. He said, will you design for us? I said, absolutely. So I designed a whole range of jewelry for Aston Martin, which I was very proud of. Went back to London and I cut through the Royal Arcade and saw this going through to Jewellery Mecca, Old Bond Street. And I saw this little shop on a just empty, tiny little thing. There's like the Strand Arcade in Sydney, beautiful. They used to have a upstairs workshop in the Strand Arcade, so I love that arcade. And it took them 1 year to get back to me. And I loved it because the real estate agent's name was Graham Speed. And it took Speedy 1 year to get back to me to say that, you could possibly have the store. It was very hard to get it. Like I tell you, it was really hard to get this store. Over there, they pay key money, like ridiculous, like millions of dollars worth of key money just to get the lease. I got it. It was 12 years ago. We opened it. It's been a great journey. We had a fantastic opening with Claudia Schiffer there as our ambassador. It was fantastic. And it's been 12 very interesting years. Some great years, some not so good years, but it's been great. All in all, wouldn't have changed it. And then not long after opening that London store, this opportunity came up in the Weston's, now the Fulton Hotel in Sydney, to get a little store in the foyer. And it just suited me fine. It wasn't, main Castlereagh Street. It wasn't, crazy rents. And we love it. We just love being in that hotel and people can visit us easily. And it's just perfect for us. That's where we're at the moment. Whether everyone keeps asking when you're going to open in Melbourne or wherever, just right at this point in time, we're very happy with the 3 stores. That could change in the future. I don't know.
Cool. Hey, do you think you'd want your daughter to come into the jewelry industry?
I did. And she used to come and actually still comes into work. I always say that, what was that thing? If a child can see over the counter, they can work in the store. And had her in the store a few times, and she loved it. And she was really good at designing. I just sit her down with a piece of paper and a pen, a bit like me, and said draw. And she'd come up some really cool designs, and then I would give that to all the staff, not telling them who designed it, and said, should we make this? And if I just didn't want it to, prefer the boss's daughter sort of thing. And they all said yes, so we designed them. But she's on a different trajectory. She's a ballet dancer. She's an actress. She's only 15, and but she's going more into acting, and that's where she needs to go. I would never ever pressure my child to join the business if you didn't want it. If you naturally want it, just like my parents did with us, if you naturally want to join the earth moving business, great. If you don't, do your own thing, and that's what I did. So just as I did my own thing, I want her to do her own thing. Who knows? She might come into the business later on in life. She might have a child, and that child might be second generation, next generation. But no, it's not going to happen from her, I don't think.
So let's get a bit philosophical. What are 3 things you would not compromise at work?
Well, 3 things I think I wouldn't compromise at work. Definitely customer service. I'm just so focused on training my staff to look after every single client and don't judge anybody. So if I see people doing that in my organization, I get really upset with them. I will not compromise on the quality of our pieces, even when people are beating you down on price and they can get this up the road from Joe Blow for this much, go and buy it. I said, if you want the Calleija piece and everything that is about it, I won't compromise on the quality of our piece or the quality of the gems. I've got to keep that really, really that standard up there. And the third one is light bulbs. I hate light bulbs when they blow out. And you see it in so many businesses and it just looks like no one cares, right? And so my mantra is retail is detail. And a light bulb is detail, as is the way the person's groomed, as is the carpet and the window. There's no insects in there, and you've got to keep it spick and span every single day.
My father would love to hear this. My late father, this would be music to his ears. The light bulb story, that was my dad. So what are 3 things you wouldn't or won't compromise from a life perspective? I'm being a bit philosophical here.
Yeah, sure. Look, if you don't have health, you haven't got anything. And how many of us have seen our close friends and family and whatever, and some of them have done so well throughout their lives and made tons of money and are successful in business, but then they get to a certain stage of their life and they just don't have health to back them up. And as I'm getting on, I'm 57 in a couple of weeks, and I just know that health is just so important. So I will not compromise that for anything. I don't like to get too stressed, and stress affects your health so badly. I have to keep the flavour of what I do in work and jewellery light-hearted and happy all the time. And I like to pass that on to my staff, right? Because they're really important to me, and I make sure that they're kept happy as much as I can. The second thing is balance. I will not compromise balance. So balance, of course, is very important in design and proportions, and that's what I'm very fastidious about. Of every single piece, that the slightest quarter of a millimeter change in the width of the gold in the setting is the make or break for that piece of jewelry. And when I say retail is detail, design is detail, and making sure you get it perfect, right? But balance, I more mean between work and play. If I'm at work 7 days a week, I'm no good to anybody. Neither is any of my staff. And if you're working for me 7 days a week, I'm not getting the best out of you. You're not giving your best. You're just going to get tired. You have to have your lunch hours, your weekends, and your holidays all the time. And me too. I have to travel. We do this because we love it. But at the end of the day, and the third one that I won't compromise on is family. And if you don't look after yourself, your health wise, and your balance, you're not looking after your family. They all tie in. The three things I won't compromise are health, balance, and family. Put family first always, health actually first always, and then that balance is family first. Family.
What's the name of it? Give me a fashion designer that you find inspirational.
Sure. Definitely Gianni Versace. Okay, Italian. I'm half Italian, the bottom half. And Gianni Versace, when I was watching the doco, and I met his brother when we won the award, there was a Versace retrospective exhibition on in Sydney, and Gianni Versace's brother, just I've forgotten his first name, is Massimo, came out and met myself and my wife, and it was a beautiful experience. And I watched the documentary about Gianni, and he's very similar to me. Well, sort of. He couldn't make the dress. He couldn't make the outfit. He couldn't even draw it to high tech so that a seamstress could make it. He was flamboyant, and he would do all the curves and the beautiful proportions and the designs and the colors by hand, and then give it to the proper drawer to do it. Now I can do all that. I can do the proper drawing and even the making of it. I can't anymore. I haven't been at the bench for 30 years. But as huge a brand that it is and was, it all came from a pencil and a piece of paper, a blank sheet. And that's how I design. I design by hand every day. I love CAD, and it's a part of our business, and it won't go away, and it's great and it's helpful. But I can't, and you can't beat a pencil and paper to just get the curves and the soul and the beauty, and then present it to a client as a little piece of artwork. And so I like Gianni Versace for that. He's very similar to me in that area.
John, one of the hardest things for people in business to do, especially in the jewelry business, is find a marketing company.
Hmm.
How do you, I mean, you've done a lot of marketing, you do a lot of marketing. I mean, you mentioned that figure, $1,800 cost of acquisition of a client. So these are serious numbers, and you've been able to calculate that sort of out. So
Yeah.
how do you find a marketing company, and how did you?
Yeah, in terms of actually marketing budget, no one really knows what should you spend on marketing budgeting. My thing is 5%. Whatever the turnover was last year, the next year I take 5% of it, at least, 5 to 7, sometimes 8% of it, and spend that on marketing. And then work out at the beginning of the year, where's it going to go? How much is going into Google? How much is going to go into print media? How much is going to go into private showings? Whatever, right? We have employed many different marketing companies over the years, and only about 2 or 3 years ago, we employed a company out of Melbourne who we put a pitch out to all of them to say, this is where we're at, this is where we want to get to. Come back to us with what you think. And we had quotes ranging from 10,000 to 200,000 of all these six or so companies. We chose one that was about 100,000, and they just impressed us. Not just the price, but they impressed us with their pitch of what they put to us, and they were great. They'd fly up all the time from Melbourne, and they sort of told us what we already knew. But there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's not bad being told what you already know, so you know you're definitely going in the right direction. It told us a lot. Don't get me wrong, we got a lot out of it. But you talk about those fashion designers. I was also watching a documentary on Ralph Lauren the other day, and he's another one that definitely inspires me. Let me tell you, my wife just loves his product, and so do I. And in his documentary, he was saying, you know what? We don't employ marketing companies. We know who we are. We know what we want. We know what our brand is. We know what our clients want, right? That's not always the case. Not everyone's like that. But he knows it. And as I'm getting older, I'm figuring out, and you know what? You can never figure it out. You never know exactly what it is. You never know whether the money you're spending, everyone knows that Coca-Cola know that only half of their marketing spend works. They just don't know which half, right? And it's like you have to go with your instinct, gut feeling all the time. And I do everything like that with my business. Is that this is where I want my product to be, and this is how I want to market it. But it never hurts to get some outside advice coming in. So that's how we did it, and we'll continue.
Okay, so let's jump to again something from a deeper perspective, which you've just talked about, your instincts. So, what's one or two things in hindsight you would have spent more time on when you were building your business?
Sure. Some designers and jewelers are really good at coming up with collections and stories. And stories are really important to clients. I mean, we all know that when you can say to somebody that, this diamond was found on this date in this mine or whatever, and it's got a bit of a history to it or whatever, people love to invest in that story. I wish I had, and, not over yet, it's still time, to create better stories around our products and better connections to clients. It's always the great challenge in trying to, get your client to specifically want to come to your brand. And I wish I'd taken more. I tend to every day almost. I sit with a piece of paper and just design. And I don't design. I don't. You don't look at sort of. Some people might say that you look at a collegiate piece and you know it's a collegiate piece. I design differently every day. One minute it's a really simple little tiny ring, and the next it's a tiara, and or a mask or something like that. So I wish I'd have done more about that, but I also wish I'd taken some time to learn about business, because when you're the owner of the business and this type of business, you have to be creative, number one, because that's what sells. But then you have to know how to manage people. You have to know how to manage finances. You have to be good in business. There's a lot of facets, pardon the pun, that we all have to know. No one teaches that unless we went and did specific courses. I learned how to make jewelry, and then I taught myself how to design. And when I went to tech, I learned lots of things, but no one sat down and taught about how you deal with banks and how you should handle your finances and things like that. It's all been for me all on instinct and learning as I've went along. There wasn't someone before me who made the mistakes, like my dad or whatever, to teach me how to do that. So I'm learning all these things now, and you've heard of some of those mistakes in this podcast.
Do you think you would have benefited from having a partner in your business who was maybe the financial person?
Look, perhaps, yes. Perhaps. I don't know, because that hasn't happened. It may happen in the future. I don't know. And it comes to a point where you can only do so much on your own, and having someone in that brings something opposite to the table, whether it be more money or better ideas or a different head sort of thing. Of course, it can. I've just always been a little bit reticent on partnerships. Always just wanted to do it, on my own. But now, as I get a bit older, I sort of rethink that and think, you know what? No, a partnership could be good. So that's not off the table for the future.
John, you've made jewelry worn by some of the most famous people in the world.
Mm.
Um, Give us a window into that. Who's let's name. Let's throw some names
We're
out there.
sworn to secrecy. We've signed
Sword.
NDAs with all of them. Not at all. Look, the beautiful thing is in this business, you just never know what's going to happen from day to day. Okay, and it can happen if your brand is out there and people can find you. And these days, that's pretty easy. You never know. I'll give you an example. Once I got a phone call at 9:10 at night, and before mobiles. Well, I think it was no, it was mobiles. It wasn't that long ago, and I think it was ringing the home at 9:10, and it's a colleague in Sydney, good friend, diamond merchant. Say, John, guess what? Luciano Pavarotti wants to meet you. He loves your designs, and he wants to meet you. He's touring Australia, and he's doing his last concert in Brisbane tomorrow, and he wants to meet you. Can you get there? You got to be. Then that was that, and then I spoke to the PA of Luciano Pavarotti, and she said, "Can you be in Brisbane by 10 o'clock tomorrow with a range of product? He wanted to buy an Argyle pink diamond and something from Australia. He said he'd heard about your work." And I said, "Of course I can." I didn't even think that the safe's time locked until 9 a.m. and Brisbane's at least an hour, and we're in, busy time of the day. So thank God for an Aston Martin. We got to the shop, got everything we could out of the safe. As soon as the time lock went, we were so nervous opening, we stuffed up the opening, drove up to Brisbane, stopped at Sanctuary Cove, picked up my daughter and my wife and my 5-month-old daughter at the time, so that's how long ago it was, and drove up the M1, crazy speed, to get to Pavarotti, stay at the Sofitel. We pulled up outside the Sofitel. The PA comes down and says, Mr. Pavarotti has overslept. Now he'll be down when he's ready. So, okay. So at least it gave us a breather to be able to compose ourselves and, get it together. Then when we finally got in, at, 11 in the morning, whatever it was, he was full makeup and came out in an electric wheelchair and looked at the jewels. Man of very few words. We opened all the boxes. This is an Argyle pink diamond. This is a Burmese ruby. This is a Colombian emerald. And he just looked and went, bellissimo, I take. And he just takes them. And I said, there's just this one other thing. And he said, what? And I said, payment. We need, he says, don't worry about that. My lawyers, they look after everything. You trust me? You trust me? I said, of course. He rocks off with 3 of the best pieces. And we're thinking, what do we do? Luckily, he paid within 3 hours. His lawyer he took off on a plane to Auckland for his final concert with the jewels. And but there've been other great ones. Recently, we just met Brian May from Queen. He was just in our store a few weeks ago because they did their tour here in Australia. And he came in and also bought some nice earrings that we'd made. Pink diamond earrings was wonderful. We were dying to meet him because we were at the concert the night before. And we met him and we had a lovely connection, lovely photos with him and everything. And then my head girl in sales, Hillary, she's famous for making these diamond-shaped shortbreads. So she makes them at home. And while COVID's been on, she made 1,500 of them and sent them out little packs to clients everywhere. So she sent a packet off to Brian May in England. And then the next thing we see, Brian May's had a heart attack. I said, Hillary, you put too much butter in those damn shortbreads. You killed our customers. He didn't die. He's going fine.
So I want to finish it up, John, on this one. You're always looking at solving design problems. What's something you've been working on recently? Like, because we often talk about you like to crunch something, but it may not necessarily be jewelry.
I'm always thinking of different ways to do things, even in the making of jewelry and the way things are worn, like a head mask and ear cuffs. And, we're making an ear cuff for a lady at the moment who unfortunately lost the lower part of her ear, but she's never been able to wear earrings. And we're designing this beautiful cuff that goes around that she can wear earrings. But all I know is, like, one of the things happened to me not long ago. I made this beautiful ring. This turned out one of those rings. Everything was perfect. It was a big diamond, pink diamonds on the side, and the lady loved it. But she came into me all the time after. I said, "Do you like your ring?" She said, "I love the ring." She said, "But it never will sit straight on my finger. It's always off to the side. It's a big rock." And I said, "Look, a lot of clients have that problem. We tried resizing it. You've got the things where you can put the gold pillows inside, you can put a spring inside, but by the time it got over a knuckle, it was spinning around everywhere." Well, the next morning, it was actually my daughter's birthday. I woke up at 3 o'clock, really concerned. I'd sold this woman a beautiful ring. It's like buying a brand new car and it veers off to the left on the road and no one can fix it. I was determined to fix it. So I've been working on it, and it's now 2 years down the track on a special little polymer that goes inside the ring, any ring, no matter what it's made of. It can be stuck to the inside of the ring. Now, that's no mean feat, let me tell you. Trying to stick anything to gold that's not gold is really difficult. Okay, nothing will stick to it. Gold's inert. You can't stick anything to it. Right? It's really hard. You stick araldite to it, it'll come off within days, and so it's very hard. So I actually had to go to NASA, would you believe, and ask them to help me. They then put me onto another company, DuPont, and then onto another company. And we finally, after 2 years, cracked the code to have this little polymer, like a little piece of rubber or silicon. So when you push the ring over the finger, the polymer expands and holds the ring tight on the finger, helps hold it tight. Everyone's different, of course, but think about it. The rings we make are usually perfectly round, and our fingers are smooth and round generally. What's going to keep the ring in the middle? Nothing. This also helps prevent the ring from coming off. And I've had that. A few people have bought rings and we thought it was the right size, and they're walking down the street, the ring falls off, and it's broken the stone or lost it. But this is called RDS, ring don't swing. And so we've designed it so for people who have big knuckles, or even anyone has their ring swinging, it's inserted inside the ring. And as soon as we've finished all our testing, we'd love jewelers around the world to take it on. And the beauty is you can put it on a ring that you can't resize, and it's a full circle eternity, or you just can't bend. You can put this inside, it'll bring it down 1 or 2 sizes. I'm hoping that will help a lot of people get sales. How many times in your jewelry store have you ordered something from your jeweler or your supplier, and it arrives at the wrong size, or the lady's lost weight and is wearing it on a different finger and it doesn't fit? It's going to cost you X amount of dollars to get it changed, or she doesn't take it and doesn't like it. You can do this on the spot and put it in and fix it. Trying to save the world.
So, John, one last question. Today, a young person walks into your store, you like them, you're chatting to them, and they say, wow, you've done so well. Do you think I should become a jeweler? What would you say to them?
Good question. And I often get asked it, and I say, if it's in you and you think you would have the passion to want to do it, then go for it, because you have to have the core passion to be like me, 40 years on, and still wake up in the morning thinking, can't wait to get to work and get into it. If you just do anything for money, which everyone's done that, it never seems to work. If you don't have the core passion to be, whether it be jewelry, designing, making, watchmaking, selling, valuing, whatever, you've got to have some sort of passion for it. Because let's face it, I've met many people that don't have that, and they only last 5 minutes, right? They're all in it for all the wrong reasons. When they're in it because they love dealing with people and they love creating something and everything that goes with it, and that's what we do. We're not what we call a small, medium, large jeweler, where it's, you want yellow gold, white gold off the shelf, there's your ring. We're not that. We are bespoke, we're custom made, and it's a lot of work in doing that. So that person that comes in must be fueled by that passion, or they won't last 5 minutes.
John Calleija, thank you for your time. It's been great chatting to you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rami. I've enjoyed it. It's been great. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to your company on the next one. Take care.